Hello there. Back again, are we? Back for another creepy, terrifying tale. Well, you're in for a treat today, because today's story is called Out of This World. Hello there. Do you believe in aliens? Well, if you don't, this story might just change your mind. Do you want to hear it? Okay then. Out in the middle of nowhere lived a mother called Janet and a daughter. Zoe's school was a bike ride away, past a forest, past a farmer's field. Janet worked at a small butcher shop, a bus ride away from their house. The two of them, bless them, had lived through a very, very tough time. 2 years ago, Janet's husband went away to a trip to the city. It was for work, a work trip, you would say. But sadly, he never returned or contacted them ever again. Of course, this left a big hole in Janet's and Zoe's life. They searched for years with help from the police and private investigators, but there was no sign of him anywhere. Every day, both of them seemed to be forever waiting for him to return home. They never thought that he would leave. He was a great father and a loving husband. Every Sunday, they would normally sit for a roast dinner. They would laugh and talk about their week. And every Sunday after that, it wasn't the same. The mother and daughter just sitting in silence, feeling sad. But their normal day was about to change. That morning, they got a phone call. It was the police, saying they had found a body. Janet needed to come to the city morgue to look at the body and to confirm it was her husband. Of course, Janet and Zoe were very shocked and sad of the news. Then Zoe got really angry, shouting out loud, "It can't be him, it can't be him." She ran upstairs and slammed the door. Janet, of course, went up to Zoe's room and she said to her, "I'm sorry, Zoe, but I really need to go and check to see if it's him. You have to stay here and go to school. You can't miss any more of it, Zoe. After all the time we've spent trying to find him, we need to be strong and we need to be here for each other." Janet took Zoe's hand. "I will call you every day, Zoe, just to make sure you're okay. And of course I'll leave you some food here, but I need to leave tonight. I'll probably be gone for 2 days. It's a very long trip." Zoe had tears running down her face. "I don't want you to find out," said Zoe. "I bet it's not even him. Why are you even going, Mum?" Janet replied very slowly. "I need to find out, Zoe." Zoe went to school as normal. Janet phoned her work and explained what had happened with the week off. She stayed at home packing her bag ready for her trip. Janet found herself looking at old photos of her and her husband together. She was remembering the good times they had and sobbing into her pillow. Was it going to be him? The question just kept on running through her mind, over and over. She washed her face and she went to the store to go and fetch some shopping. She had to pick up some food for Zoe for while she was gone. While Janet was out, she decided to meet up with her friend Mary. Janet told Mary all about the phone call she got. Of course, her friend Mary was very shocked about the news. Janet's friend Mary told Janet she would keep an eye out for Zoe while she was gone. Janet was very grateful to hear this and thanked her. Janet returned home. She checked that she had her passport and documents with her. Then she waited for Zoe to return home. As Janet was on the phone calling the taxi, Janet saw Zoe on her bike, cycling up the footpath. Zoe walked in. Hey Mum, you're still going then? Looking down at her bags on the floor. Yes, Zoe, we need to do this. We need to have answers. The taxi arrived. I have left food in the fridge for you, Zoe, and also some money on the side in case you need it. I will call you as soon as I hear anything, okay? Zoe didn't say a word to her mother. Zoe was just staring, deep in thought about everything. Zoe was very cross but did understand why her mum had to go. As soon as her mum left, Zoe decided to check the fridge out to see what her mum got her for food. She looked in the fridge. Ew, there was just salad. Then she saw some cash on the side and decided to order herself a pizza. She knew what to do. One of her favourite things to do. She was going to watch a horror movie. Her favourite was Aliens. She loved everything about this movie. The idea of being in deep space, away from everyone, and away from everything. She called up for a pizza. It was going to take an hour, but she didn't mind. She went upstairs and grabbed her blanket and her pillow and pushed her favourite video into the player. About 45 minutes later, the doorbell rang. That was fast, she thought to herself, running to the door, collecting the change on the way. She opened the door. There was nothing. She looked around, her heart beating loudly in her chest. Was she hearing things now as well? She closed the door and got back to her movie. 10 minutes later, the doorbell rang again. She knew she definitely heard it this time. She ran to the door and opened it. The pizza boy on the door was very spotty and sweaty, and very out of breath. He handed Zoe the pizza and asked to use her phone. Okay, why do you need to? Asked Zoe. There's a fire in the forest and it looks like a big one. Okay, sure, use the phone. He rang someone and told them about the fire and something else strange. He was saying that there was green lights in the field. He took his money and he cycled off. Zoe got the house keys. It was getting dark outside, but she needed to go and check out to see if there was really a fire out there, or if she could see the green lights. She went outside on the footpath and looked around. She could see smoke in the distance. Zoe went back into the house, grabbed her pizza, and sat down. I wonder what that green light was, she thought to herself. The pizza guy must have smoked lots of weed. She was laughing to herself now. She finished half the pizza and she finished the movie and she decided to go to bed. She had so many thoughts running through her mind. She found it very hard to go to sleep. All she kept on thinking about was her dad in the morgue and the green lights and also the fire. She got to sleep around 1 a.m. Meanwhile, her mum arrived at the city centre. The only hotel in the middle of the city was fully booked, so she went to a phone box and looked for places to stay. She found one, not too far away. It was the same one her husband stayed in on his trip. She had seen it from the photos the detectives took while on investigation to find him. She called down a taxi and she went to the hotel. Knowing her husband had been at this hotel too upset her. She was trying to remember what room number the photos were taken from. But when she got there, she was just too tired to even care. It was late and she just wanted to go to bed. She got to room number 33, lay down and she went straight to sleep. The body was booked for 7 p.m. with the chief of police and one of the investigation officers, so she had plenty of time to rest up. Back over with Zoe now. Zoe woke up at 7 a.m. with a massive thud on the roof. Then her alarm rang. The thud made her jump out of her skin. She got dressed and ran outside to see what the noise was. She looked up at the roof. There was a bike on the roof. How did that get up there? Zoe got ready for school and rushed out the door. She cycled away while looking at the roof. Did it wake me up by falling? She thought to herself. Zoe thought that she would check it out properly after school. While Zoe cycled past the forest, there was police and firefighters. They were stopping people and asking them questions. Zoe cycled ahead of the queue of traffic. She overheard them talking about missing persons. Zoe was thinking maybe there was people in the forest when the fire began. But then she heard something. It was the pizza guy from last night. Was the other man the person he called? They were talking to people for a long time. Zoe didn't want to be late for school, so she cycled past. School was boring as normal for Zoe. Mrs. Rose, Mary, stopped Zoe at lunchtime. "Are you okay, dear?" As she smiled, some reason, Zoe burst out crying. It made her think of her dad. Mary took Zoe to her office. Zoe then said, "Did Mum tell you what happened?" "Yes," said Mary. "I bet you're having a hard time right now, aren't you?" "I'm here for you if you need to talk, Zoe." Mary passed a tissue over to Zoe. Zoe nodded, saying thank you while drying her eyes. Mary let Zoe compose herself before and took Zoe to class. "Will you be okay, Zoe?" Mary said, standing at the door. Zoe nodded. "Yes, I'll be fine. If you need to go home early, Zoe, let me know." Zoe stayed till the last lesson and got on her bike and rode home. She forgot all about the police that morning until she saw the boards again on the way back. There was a big poster with missing persons on it. This made Zoe swallow hard. Maybe she should call the police when she got home. When she got home, she put on the TV. She decided to watch the news. There was talk of fire in the forest and missing persons, and then about crop circles in the fields very close to the forest. The news was saying it was vandalism. The missing persons may be one of the people that did the vandalisms on the field. They thought they started the fire as well. Just as Zoe was trying to add things together in her head, there was a knock on the door. It was the police. Walking towards the door, she could see red and blue lights flashing through the windows. She opened the door and it was the police. "Zoe, we believe you're the last person to see John Donny last night." "Was he the fellow that delivered that pizza?" Pointing at the half-eaten pizza on the table. "Yeah," said Zoe. "Did you notice anything suspicious about John?" "He asked to use my phone," said Zoe. "He called someone and told them about the fire in the forest." "Okay," said the police. "Is there anything else you can tell us about that night, Zoe?" Zoe shook her head. Then she remembered about the bike on the roof. Zoe decided to speak up. "I heard this loud thud on the roof this morning. It sounded like something very heavy falling from the sky almost onto the roof. And I saw a bike up there." The police went outside. They got a large ladder from Janet's shed, climbed up and pulled down a bike that was crushed like a can. It had a bag on the back. It was the pizza company. It was John's bike. Back in the city, Janet got to the hospital where the body was held to be examined. It was 6:30. Janet paced up and down the long halls with the smell of cleaning products and the dim lights hurting her eyes. The police arrived with a clipboard. Seconds later, the investigator arrived also. "Janet, are you ready? I know this must be a very difficult time for you. It would be great to know if this is your husband." Janet swallowed hard. She began to feel shaky and weak. "It's been 2 years, she said slowly. They walked through a cold metal room. There was a body-shaped figure underneath a white sheet. The policeman nodded at Janet, and he slowly folded down the white sheet. His skin was pale and grey. The man underneath looked just like her husband. But as she studied more, she noticed something. There was a scar There was a scar running right down his face, right from the top of his head all the way down. She burst into tears. What happened to him? What is the scar? The body got quickly recovered. We would like to take you to a room and talk to you discovered about your husband. Janet nodded, tears running down her face. Can I go back and say goodbye after, please? I need to say goodbye properly. Yes, said the police. They left the small room and entered an office across the hall. A doctor came into the room. They sat down at the white desk. Janet, I bet you have lots of questions. But I'm sorry to say I don't have any answers yet, Janet. We want to do a full autopsy on your husband, and we need your permission. We'd like to find exactly what happened to your husband. He was found in a field. The scar that you see running down his face looks much older than 2 years old, and we'd love to know what it's from and where it's come from. Janet nodded, and she was passed a form to sign for permission for a full autopsy. For some reason, she felt shocked to have the unknowing disappear. She knew her husband was dead now. She felt numb. She felt like she had run out of tears. Please, can I go and say my goodbyes now? Janet asked. But first I need to ring my daughter Zoe. She went back to the main hall and used the phone on the front desk. She rang Zoe. Zoe picked up. Janet started to cry. I'm sorry. Zoe, it's him. It's really him. Zoe dropped the phone and burst out crying. Everything's gonna be okay. Zoe, I'm really sorry. I have to go now. But I'll come home as soon as I can. Okay, Mum, Zoe said. Police had only left 20 minutes prior to this call. They wanted to come back tomorrow for questioning. Zoe felt sick. She felt so sad that she couldn't be there for her mum. Zoe took a bite from yesterday's pizza leftovers. Then she thought about the dread of John and where he could be. She spat out the pizza and threw the rest of the pizza into the trash. Zoe decided to go to bed. She was tired and exhausted from all the things that had happened. The police, finding out about her dad, and also about the forest and John. But as Zoe climbs into bed, she hears another thud. This thud sounded even louder. Zoe pounced out of bed and ran downstairs and opened the door and walked out to see what the noise could be. She walked out to the porch and blood poured all over her face. There was a body up there. Zoe was screaming. A bright green light shined up above, like laser lights, and the sounds of her screams couldn't be heard anymore. Like time had stood still. Zoe felt herself being dragged upwards towards a bright green light up in the sky. Zoe was panicked. She grabbed the roof, but she wasn't strong enough to hold on. Janet walked back into the room where her husband was, and she asked to be alone. Janet pulled back the sheet. She studied her husband's face and stroked it lightly with her fingertips. I'm sorry, husband, she whispered softly. But then the body sat up, stiff and unhuman. Janet was shocked and took a few steps back. Her husband started to point his finger right at the top of his head. A green thin light came out of his fingertip. He pointed it in the center of his scar and ran it down his face. The skin was opening up, just like it was being unzipped. There was no blood. It was like sponge underneath. It was a big black-eyed alien. It didn't quite look like the ones you see in movies. Its skin was green, and its eyes flashing green to yellow as it blinked. Janet didn't know what to do. She just froze. alien pulled off the last chunks of her husband attached to its body. The alien reached out to Janet. A green light came from its finger. Don't worry, Janet. We'll take good care of your daughter. Janet started to panic. Then the alien's finger slowly pointed up at Janet's face, at Janet's head. Burning green light cut Janet. It cut Janet clean in half. Her organs and intestines all just falling out. Did you like that story? Was it a good alien story? Well, I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope I didn't scare you too much. I hope you all have a disgusting, horrible day, and I hope you subscribe, because if you like it, you want to see more, surely. I'd love to know what you think as well, even if you think it's rubbish. So yes, thank you again for watching and listening to my creepy, terrifying tale, and I'll see you next time with another gruesome, gross, or scary story. Goodbye now. Goodbye.